Hello, NYSAC family. This is Patrick Cummings. I'm counsel with NYSAC. And this is another in a series of podcasts that we're putting on for you, our members, talking about a lot of different issues that are coming up in the state legislature and in particular the state budget. Today we're going to be talking about mobile sports betting. A lot of news has been made about that. There are different proposals out there. In the past few years, the governor has his own proposal in the budget. The legislature has a different one, and there's a lot of ins and outs to this, and how local governments, casinos are involved. All depends on the different models, and we are lucky enough to be joined today by my friend Robert Hemsworth. He is Vice President and General Counsel at Capital OTB. Really a mind that I want to thank you. I bounce whenever I see new legislation up. He always picks up the phone and we kind of hash out, this is how I'm reading it, how are you reading it? And it's been a really great resource for me to get you, our members, information. So Robert, thanks for joining us today, and thank you for all you do for county government.
No, not a problem at all, Pat. We're glad to be here. We're glad to help out NYSAC with any questions they have related to both off-track betting and the pending sports betting bills in legislation that both the governor and the assembly have. But just a step back, remembering that Capital off-track betting serves the counties, which is why we have a good relationship with NYSAC, is we serve the counties of Schenectady. The off-track betting corporations were originally put together in the early 70s. And our participating partners are those counties that participate with each of us. There are 5 different off-track betting corporations. Capital off-track betting is comprised of 16 different counties, as well as the city of Schenectady, one of our original members from the early 70s. And we serve, in lieu of being a regular business with shareholders, the counties would be considered our shareholders. So the profits that the corporation generates are distributed to the counties based on a statutory formula that was put together by the state. So it's our hope that we can be involved in the sports betting, mobile, in person, depending on which legislative proposal you're going to be looking at and talking about, is that we believe that if we can get sports betting into the off-track betting corporations, we can generate revenue, and then that revenue, again, has to be split and distributed to the participating counties, which is why we're trying to be a good partner with NYSAC. One of our legislative duties, based on our statutory formula, our statutory enabling legislation, is to help us provide a reasonable stream of revenue to our participating counties, and that's what we try to do. It's our hope that sports betting will help bring us another stream of revenue that we can pass along to the NYSAC members.
Thanks, Robert. So let's focus on mobile sports betting, but I guess even to understand what that is, let's even take it back a step further. What is legal right now in New York? I think we can already in some format do sports betting. So what exactly is sports betting? Where can it be done? And then from there, let's take the change and what changes with mobile sports betting.
What's next? Here's what exists. Currently, there is sports betting allowed at the casinos, physically on the casino grounds. Pat and I, we talked yesterday about this potential for geocaching and things like that. That does not exist at this point. There is strictly on-premises sports betting at the casinos. In the Capital District, we have Rivers Casino. They have a sports book that they put together. So you can wager, but you have to do it on the grounds, in the sports book, in person. Right now in New York State, there is no option for mobile sports betting. But several of the casinos do have sports betting options available, again, at the facility, in person, nothing as to mobile. Now, as you mentioned, the 2 proposals that we have, the legislature, Senator Adabo and Assemblyman Pretlow, have a bill that was put out last year and would basically allow sports betting at the casinos, but allow an expansion of sports betting. It to be allowed at off-track betting corporations, it to be allowed at other different venues. Madison Square Garden, I think, was one of them. And over a period of time, it would expand the option for sports betting, both mobile and in a facility. It's our hope from the Capital, from the OTB's perspective, we have a lot of handle that is generated. A lot of people place wagers on an account, right? They bet over their phone, they bet over their iPad, over their computer. But our brick and mortar still is a very, very viable option. It still produces a lot. Roughly, probably half of our revenue comes from our brick and mortar. So there is a large segment of the population that doesn't want an account. They want to go and they want to bet in person. And you can see that at the sports book at Rivers Casino as well. Last year, there were some issues, and the governor had the governor's position, the executive position was that there was a constitutional issue related to sports betting, and that it wasn't necessarily allowed under the state constitution. It seems the governor has taken a new focus on whether or not that constitutional issue still exists. And what the governor's proposal is that sports betting, mobile sports betting would be allowed, providing the bets were determined to be taken at a server that would be located within the casino, or a casino, not one in particular, but in a casino that is offering sports betting. So there's been kind of a relook at that proposal, and a look. This was a position that the legislative branch, Senator Dabo and Assemblyman Bretlow, had pushed, that there really isn't a constitutional issue because we can put the server and deem the sports wager placed where the server is located.
Yeah, let me jump in there because it's a really interesting topic that could be. I mean, this could take a whole law school class to talk about, but it's really talking about it's a state constitutional issue of where is gaming allowed, and so can mobile betting even be allowed in the state of New York? And it really comes down to, I think it was in 2014, if I'm wrong, that gaming in general, this is how our casinos got expanded. It was a state constitutional change that allowed that to happen. Not necessarily just a state legislation. It was a referendum by the people to adopt to allow this. And within that constitutional amendment, it had a terminology such as that gaming was allowed as long as it was within the commercial or Native American casinos, right? So then what exactly does within mean? And that gets to the interesting constitutional argument, because clearly if we're betting, and we'll talk a little bit more about mobile betting, right? We're talking about over the phone or over your computer. That's not going to necessarily be done. 99% of that is probably not going to be done in the casino, right? So how is that constitutionally viable? The answer is, at least potentially, servers, right? So if I'm making the bet from my phone, that can get directed to a server within the casino, that could arguably satisfy the constitutional requirement. So I think a year ago or so, I think that was partly what the governor's office was arguing. Maybe this isn't allowable. I think that they are now agreeing with the advocates and the legislature, saying, you know what, there's a potential to do this with mobile betting, and that's how to go forward with it. So the casinos are going to be involved in this in some way or another, whether it be Cuomo's proposal or the legislature's. But go on. So thank you.
Yeah, no. Originally, the governor's proposal was looking for one casino to partner with a sports betting entity. Since then, in conversations, the governor has kind of expanded that to maybe one entity is not enough. Maybe there are two. The state has just released the Spectrum Gaming Report, which provided kind of a very in-depth, 1,000-foot overview of gaming in New York State as it is, with the casinos, the off-track betting, the video lottery terminals, the racetracks, and kind of all of the gaming. And not only the Spectrum Gaming, but a lot of the experts across the country really believe that multiple vendors is the way to go, because it increases competition, and competition increases, right? It could increase revenue. You're going to have different entities that are going to compete for customers. They're going to make it more advantageous for their customers, more beneficial for their customers, and they're going to fight for their customers. And again, the state's going to get a portion of that.
So there's a lot of stuff you're mentioning here, and it gets complex, but I want to sort of break it down a little bit and tell me where you think I'm wrong. So one part of this study and why this matters is gaming in New York State, I think, is seen, on the most part, I mean, it can grow a little bit, but see it as a pie, and I think most experts agree this is a pie, and there's only so many which ways you can slice this. So when you start to introduce new forms of betting, mobile sports betting, right? OTBs, casinos, it doesn't necessarily create new revenue. I think in this case we will see some, but it also can have the side effect of pulling away from whether the shift, right? And are we making so we got to, why this is important to us to see which direction we're going to go is we want to make sure that if when the shift happens, that both local governments are covered for any increased costs that might have for them, but as well as partners that we've had in the community that both job creation is sustained, as well as the viability of these other entities that we'd like to see succeed. So the governor's proposal, when you mentioned that it's so again for the mobile sports betting, that the original one had with it would be one company that, I mean, the server, DraftKings, for example, they would be able to bid, win that bid, and partner with a casino for one server, and that would be kind of one entity. And now there might be multiple now, right, that can do this. And it seems like to me, but correct me if I'm wrong, in the governor's system, these entities would probably make a bid for a license and the ability to do that. They'd get paid for their service, but any kind of overage, from the that they would make from this system wouldn't necessarily go to the casino or to then therefore the potentially local government, but it'd be that extra revenue would be going to the state itself, right? Whereas, explain the difference then between the legislature's proposal.
In the governor's initial discussion, he made very clear that he wanted that revenue to go to the state in a majority of the fashion, that revenue was to be generated by the state. So we talked about the governor, the executive's proposal. The legislative proposal, that's the one that was set forth by Senator Dabo and Assemblyman Pretlow, the chairs of the respective racing committees, was that it would allow an expansion. It would allow other entities to engage in mobile sports betting, either through an affiliate type program, where we could partner with that entity that does sports betting. In the OTB case, we might generate some kind of agreement to generate some kind of revenue from new accounts that we bring in, or one of our proposals is to have sports betting wagering kiosks located in our OTBs. We're already engaged in pari-mutuel wagering, and our tow company, the ones that our third party that provides the pari-mutuel wagering for us, has already said they can handle the sports betting issue. It's a very simple jump for them, so to speak. But under that proposal, we expand sports betting and we allow other different entities to get into it, because as you did mention, there will be some additional revenue, right? There's a lot of talk about how many New Yorkers are going to New Jersey to bet.
Yep.
And the city, New York City being the biggest market, this is why everybody wants into that market. The theory is now we allow it in New York, those individuals that are driving over the bridge, heading into New Jersey, sitting in the parking lots, betting on their phone, are now not going to have to do that. They don't have to spend the time driving, they can do it. And that revenue will then come to New York State versus New Jersey. Nothing against New Jersey, but I'd certainly rather have the revenue come here to New York State. And as I mentioned, if that revenue can flow, or a portion of that revenue can flow through the off-track betting corporations, that revenue would go to the participating counties. That's how the counties benefit from sports betting. It is it's a rather convoluted system. It has been. It was put in place in the early 70s with the advent of mobile advanced deposit wagering on horse racing, being able to bet on your phone or on your tablet or on your computer, internet wagering on sports betting that occurred a few years ago. And then now we're looking at another expansion of gaming. And there is you're correct. There's only so big a pie,
Mhm.
and it's our hope that we can become part of this sports betting. So because we do believe, right, that sports betting is a very popular venue, right? It's our belief that it will impact our handle. Some people who regularly play the horses might not spend as much money on the horses as they want to bet on sports betting, and kind of there'll be a shift in the gambling dollars. But if we can also accept sports wagers, we can kind of replace that potential lost revenue and continue to generate a reasonable stream of revenue for our NYSAC partners.
That's great. So I think that explains the difference between the two. I'll get we'll start to wrap up here, but I'll ask you use a corny pun in the gambling world. What can you handicap for us? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to pass this year? And if so, what are you hearing in Albany on which version has the best odds of making it through the legislature?
I think with COVID and the state budget deficit, I think the state is certainly looking for ways to fill that budget gap that the state is certainly going to have. Sports betting has been on the table for a few years. We know this is probably the opportune year for it as the state looks for revenue.
Yep.
Which method we're going to go with, it does seem like the executive is amenable to maybe shifting from just one provider to two, which is going to help competition, which is going to theoretically generate more revenue. It's our hope, certainly, that the OTBs can continue to be a part of sports betting, and we do. You know, we've met with the legislators. We've met with members of the exec. We certainly want to partner because of what our statutory goals are, what our responsibilities are, and the counties have seen budget deficits. COVID has hit everybody. Right? It's certainly not just the state. It's not the little towns and villages. It has hit every municipality. And we look at this from the OTB, from the Capital OTB perspective, this is a way for us to generate some additional revenue, to have another option to help generate revenue for the counties. Our goal is really simple. I mean, that's it. We don't keep any. There's no, being able to hold money. We have to distribute all of the money we get by law. I can't keep it for a rainy day fund or anything like that. So I have to distribute it. And our goal is to maximize that distribution. And it's our hope that the state doesn't want to leave money on the table. And we look at leaving out the brick and mortar, the OTBs, is leaving money on the table, because a large amount of OTB handle still is generated at that brick and mortar. These are people who like to bet with cash, and that's how they want to do it. That's what they're used to. And I would hate for the state to not include brick and mortar in it and leave a sizable chunk of revenue on the table. I just don't think it's a viable solution for the state to go strictly mobile. I think there is a need for brick and mortar. And let's be honest, FanDuel, I think it was DraftKings. There was an article I read a few days ago. They just opened up a brick and mortar location in an existing kind of bar restaurant place, and they realized. I mean, we're talking FanDuel. We're talking one of the largest. You know, these are people who certainly know the industry. They believe there's money to be made in the brick and mortar.
Yep.
Right. And I don't want to see the state shouldn't be leaving that money on the table and looking at things just from a mobile perspective. Because like I said, we at Capital, half, 45-50% of our wagering is done still in the branches, in that brick and mortar, those storefronts. It's our hope that we can, partner and continue to create that revenue stream.
Great. Well, I think that about covers it. Robert, thank you so much for your time. And on behalf of the NYSAC members, we appreciate everything that you do for us and with us. For those of you out there interested in this topic, much more to come, right? We'll have the one house budgets, the Assembly and Senate out shortly in a few weeks. We'll know more on where they're looking to go with this issue, and we will report on that to you in the near future. If you have any questions on this topic or any, feel free to contact me and your NYSAC staff at any time. So thanks again.
Thank you.